Hello and welcome to another episode of the Highlight Reel. My name is Nick Lynch.
And I'm Ben Heltzer.
And today we will be covering Week 10 of the NFL season, including a very unexpected slump, a preview of next week's main event and our Week 11 power rankings, and of course our picks for Game of the Week. So to start off, the Chicago Bears are slumping. They're 4-5 after starting the season 4-2. One thing I have to say about Caleb Williams, though, I like the way he's trending upward, but he's still very inaccurate, I feel like.
100%. And I think it's safe to say that nobody saw this coming, at least on Caleb Williams' end, because there's a strong case for him to be the worst quarterback of the draft class thus far. I mean, obviously Jaden Daniels has been balling out. Bo Nix has been doing his thing. Drake May hasn't been terrible with what he has. And Caleb Williams has by far the most talent around him out of those four guys. And he's not like being as productive as we thought he would. I will say, though, that they are in a very tough division. So, you know, there's that. The NFC North is the toughest division in football right now. So I think Chicago, they could bounce back, but even if they do, and even if they do finish positive, like 9-8, 10-7, that still might not be enough with how stacked the NFC is right now.
Yeah.
And that Hail Mary broke them.
Yeah, the Bears have 23 straight possessions without scoring a touchdown, and they fired their offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron. But for the Bears, I just feel like I like their defense because they do get turnovers, and they get really big turnovers. But I just feel like their offense, I feel like their offensive line is still not good.
Yeah, that offensive line is terrible.
They need to get their receivers going more. I feel like, you know, if you give DJ Moore the ball, I think, you know, he will do something.
Yeah.
And
I believe Williams is the most sacked quarterback in the NFL at this point.
Yeah,
it's not a good spot to be in.
So now we will do a game preview of the big game for this week, the Kansas City Chiefs against Ben's beloved Buffalo Bills. So the 3-3 each team is in the last 6 matchups. The Bills have won all 3 regular season games. Kansas City has won all 3 playoff games. And it's going to be a huge game because you have the Chiefs who are going into Highmark undefeated. And honestly, Ben, I think I like your chances for this game. You're at home. You've won every regular season game against Kansas City so far. And, you know, I think if Kansas City were to lose a game, this would be the one game they would lose.
100% agree. I'm so confident in us going into this week. We have owned them in the regular season the past few seasons. And sure, you know, we can't beat them in the playoffs, but it's not the playoffs yet. I think that, you know, they have to lose at some point, surely. I know everyone's saying that, you know, the league wants them to go undefeated and the refs are whatever. I don't buy that. I think that they have to lose at some point. And I think there's no better point for them to get their first loss than in Buffalo against the Bills. Being you the past 3 regular season games, I think this is it. I think they'll get their first loss here.
Yeah, I agree. And like looking on the Kansas City schedule, I think, you know, after this game, if they win this game, they could go undefeated. I mean, they do have Pittsburgh on Christmas Day.
They're at Pittsburgh.
And they haven't lost since Christmas Day last year. So I'm kind of interested to see how this game plays out.
But final score prediction, I'm gonna say 27-23 Buffalo.
I am going to say 24-21. The Bills are gonna hold on to win in a very close game. So now we move on to our top 5 in the Week 11 power rankings. Number 5, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who come down from 10 against the Washington Commanders last week. The Buffalo Bills at number 4 with their win over Indianapolis. Baltimore at number 3, who came back in the fourth quarter in that crazy Thursday night game, which we'll get into more later. But Yeah, the Ravens, they're number 3. Detroit's number 2 with another comeback against Houston. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, of course, the NFL's only undefeated team at number 1.
Although they could, I predict them to fall next week.
They could fall. So now we're going to go to the game of the week. My pick for game of the week is that Thursday night game, the Bengals and the Ravens. The Bengals-Ravens games this year have been an absolute
They
movie.
play tough every year. I mean,
Yeah.
It's so fun. I get so excited. I look forward to those games every season because both quarterbacks are going to ball out, and there's going to be not a lot of defense, but a whole lot of offense.
Mm-hmm. They in between the two games, Baltimore took the first one 41-38 in overtime, and then the Ravens swept the Bengals 35-34 in the second.
And then real quick, my game of the week, I'm going to go with that Steelers-Commanders game.
Yeah.
1-point game. It had everything. It had great defense at points, great offense at points, turnovers. It had it all. It was a great game.
Yeah, I got to say the George Pickens catch in the first quarter
sure.
was...
It had great catches.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be it for us on the NFL today, but up next is Smitty and Jake to talk about college football.
Hello and welcome back to college football on the highlight reel. We missed last week because of a short school week, and there's been quite a bit of action in college football, so let's get right into these games.
First game, we got Georgia Tech took down Miami, beating them 28-23, handing the Canes their first loss of the season. Jake, what are your thoughts on this game?
I mean, it was bound to happen. Miami, just been barely getting by teams. Really, Cam Ward I feel like he's been keeping them afloat all season. But yeah, quite a few games where they just won by one touchdown. I think a lot of us were expecting them to finally give up a game, and it finally happened.
Yeah, talking about Cam Ward, he had a pretty good game, 25 for 39, 348 passing yards, 3 TDs. It was just him basically the whole game, but he wasn't alone to hold off Georgia Tech's run game, though.
Yeah, honestly, let's just talk about how he's been carrying them throughout the season. I think if Miami did not have Cam Ward, then really who knows where they would be. Would they even be 500?
I honestly don't.
If they didn't have Cam Ward, I don't know if they would have a 6
I think
record.
Cam Ward is their whole team. It's kind of like a J.J. McCarthy with Michigan.
Yeah, he's brought them back in games. I mean, I wouldn't compare it that
No,
way.
I wouldn't compare it that far, but J.J., he carried the team.
Has the same effect. I don't think J.J. McCarthy has the same effect Cam Ward has, because I feel like Cam Ward is, really getting his team back into these games, and they're winning by 1 touchdown.
Yep.
But yeah, he's keeping their playoff chances alive.
Yeah. Well, the Canes are now number 9 in the new college playoff rankings for this week.
Yeah, let's talk about our next game. Moving on, we had Ole Miss. They go in and win a must-win game against Georgia, just dominated.
Yep. Jackson Dart said earlier when they lost to LSU, they would need to win out, which right now they are.
Yeah, they've been doing
they're doing exactly what they did, beating or dominated top-ranked Georgia. Great game for Ole Miss D-line as well. Another somewhat shaky game for Carson Beck, which is not a shocker.
Yeah, Carson Beck's really just looked shaky. I remember first game of the season, I'm seeing his goals. He wants to be first pick. He wants to get his team to win a national championship.
He can't even get a touchdown.
But the way he's playing,
he can't even get a touchdown in a game. That's how it is. He's not good.
He's not bad, but he's not as good as a lot of people think he is or thought he was.
Yeah, he's very overhyped.
Yeah, and really, I've been talking to a lot of people. Georgia's really just not that powerhouse that maybe we thought they were. Obviously, still a great team, a playoff team, and I hope they do make it because it would be better for the playoff.
Yeah, I agree.
But they're not as much of a powerhouse as we thought they would be.
Yep, and then moving on to our last game, Alabama versus LSU, a highly anticipated showdown. What a game for Jalen Milroe. Just absolutely a beautiful performance. Not a crazy passing game, but a crazy rushing game for him. 109 passing yards, and then 12 carries, 55 rushing yards, and 4 rushing TDs, which is insane from a QB.
Yeah, actually 185 rushing yards, so even crazier. Not a crazy passing game, but just so physical. I think that's really what you see from him.
Mm-hmm.
He's such a strong quarterback, athletic, so he's able to either do it in the passing game with his deep threats like Ryan Williams, but when he's not, he makes such an impact on the ground, and we really saw that. 4 rushing touchdowns from a quarterback is crazy.
And he broke the record, I think, like 70 something yards for Alabama. Like that's just or 72-yard rushing touchdown in the 4th. Yeah, like that is insane from a QB.
LSU just really no offense, too many turnovers. Really, just kind of I wouldn't say stagnant. They were able to get the ball moving a little, but Nussmeier having a little bit of trouble with interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
He's trouble turning the ball over.
Nussmeier, I think he's overhyped as well. Like
I think
he's a good QB, but he's just very overhyped. He's not who people think he is or people say he is. He's a good QB for LSU, but against top teams like Alabama, like he just can't get the ball thrown.
Yeah, like we're looking at draft or mock drafts, and I see like he's the 5th ranked quarterback. I'm like, I do not believe that. I feel like there's quite a few. I don't think there's that many quarterbacks who like this year. I think there's 3. I think Cam Ward, Milroe, Shador. I think they stand out. I think Drew Allershant stands out a little. I think those could be great quarterbacks that
I agree
could
with
be
your
coached
list.
to success. But I was talking about it with Rocco Coppola. Guys like Nussmeier. Who else were we talking about? Really, just Nussmeier. Yeah, Beck. I mean, I don't really get the mock drafts. I don't see what they're seeing.
No. But I agree with you. Like with that top 5 that you named, I think that's the perfect top 5 QB list going into the 2025 draft.
Yeah, but we're kind of starting to see the playoff picture form. The conference championships are really gonna tell us what teams are getting in, because 12-team playoff is gonna make it very different this year.
It's gonna be a big year this year with a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, it's gonna be really cool to see. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned. Next, Andrew is gonna be talking about soccer.
Hello, I'm Andrew Mirzaaghasi, and I will be talking about soccer once again. To start off the Premier League, we have Arsenal versus Chelsea, which it was a tie, 1-1. This was a shock, as usually Arsenal score a lot of goals like Man City, like 3-0, 4-0, usually in the count. But, however, this did not happen this game, as Chelsea were able to stand their ground and tie with Arsenal, as Chelsea's tie-maker goal was so good that Arsenal's coach, Mikel Arteta, called his team's performance a disgrace and proceeded to slam on the ground in frustration like a toddler, not getting his way. Which, I don't know why he would do that, especially when the cameras are rolling, but it shows him that he's in a very bad light. Well, for bad news, especially for Inter Miami fans, as Messi and Inter Miami are eliminated from MLS Cup playoffs from Atlanta United, as they lost 3-2, which is sad, but they were also the first ones to be eliminated, as this came to be a shock, as they were on fire on performance and they were able to qualify for the Club World Cup. However, they were eliminated very first team in the MLS Cup, which, like I said, is shocking, as Suarez and Messi were struggling on the field trying to keep up with Atlanta United. However, if they were eliminated from the MLS Cup, what would be their future in the Club World Cup? As would they be able to go from their group stage to the round of 16 on to the semi? It depends all. But we will have to see in the near future. But speaking of Inter Miami, there is a rumor going around that a new player might join the Inter Miami team. And that new player might be the Brazilian star Neymar Jr. Yes, you heard me. There is a slight chance, it's not really confirmed, that Neymar Jr. might join Inter Miami, reuniting with Messi and Suarez. This rumor comes from 2 pieces of evidence. The first piece of evidence is that Neymar has bought property in Miami, and thus he might live there from now on. And this is speculation here, but he might stay there. Another piece of evidence comes from the fact that his contract from his Saudi Arabia team, Al Hilal, is being terminated because of his injuries. And if anyone knows Neymar, it's due to his injuries, because Neymar and injuries is bad news, especially this injury, a hamstring injury, taking 4 to 6 weeks for being healed, missing a lot of Al Hilal games and Brazilian national team games. Neymar and injuries are so common that I'm not going to be surprised if there is a compilation of him rolling on the floor crying in pain, because that's how many times he's gotten hurt in his career. So far, Inter Miami have been open to signing Neymar when the time is right. However, depending on how the MLS handles this, In this transfer, it is unknown to determine the outcome. Now, before I get onto the standings, I'm usually wearing a Man City shirt, and I'm not going to talk about Man City because they have a disgraceful performance as they're on a 4 losing game streak as they lost in the Champions League against Sporting 4-0, and it's embarrassing. So I won't speak any of that, and it's technically a disgrace. Now we move on to the standing. And first we have Liverpool with 28 points, Man City with 23 points, Chelsea with 19 points, Arsenal with 19 points, and surprisingly, Nottingham Forest with 19 points. This week so far has been the most that the top 5 has changed. Well, except for Liverpool and Man City. Arsenal went down, Chelsea is now 3rd, and now Nottingham Forest have now joined top 5. Finally, something new, you should say. But don't forget, this is still early in the Premier League, so anything could happen. Maybe Man City will come back from their 4-game losing streak. Maybe if we can get our strikers to be healed up, maybe we could do better again. But for now, I think Man City is going to play defensively just like they did with Brighton, and only rely on Haaland to only score 1 goal and then choke it up in the very last minute of the game. Now, thanks for watching, but don't go anywhere as Rocco and Matt are now going to talk about the NBA.
Hello, and welcome back to the NBA segment on the highlight reel. Rocco, let's get it started. Celtics versus Bucks.
I mean, back and forth, what can you say? Just love to see both teams, like, they're producing. Actually, that's being gentle and that's being nice to the Bucks. The Bucks have been a disaster this year. Everybody on that team just, so hard to watch. Jason Tatum, though, he's cooking for Boston, and what more can you ask for? He's really starting to prove why maybe he could be an MVP candidate, but at the end of the day, Boston, they look even better than they did last year. They're the favorites to win the whole thing. I don't see anybody stopping them for the time being.
Next up, we got the 76ers and against the Hornets. 76ers take the win on this one.
Yeah, listen, Philly special. Coming off that tough loss in the NBA Cup ahead of time against the Knicks. Listen, the Sixers and the Hornets, they're both two very different teams. And you look at where the Sixers are now, they could be better. Paul George, he could be better. Everybody could be better. The Tyrese Maxey injury was definitely a big blow to them. But listen, I'm not worried. When he comes back, Nick Nurse is going to have a game plan. And Tyrese Maxey, he is a top 10, arguably top 5 point guard in the league. Excuse me. But you look at Tyrese Maxey, he changes the game just so much. He knows how to take it, and he just knows how to run from both sides of the court. That is what he does best. And I think the Sixers are going to be fine. And credit to the Hornets. They played a great game, and they should only get better from here on out.
Finally, we got your Knicks against the Pacers. The Pacers take this one. Thoughts?
The Pacers just love scoring points against us. What more can you say? Look, the Knicks, I don't know what's been up with them. I'm going to cover that on Tri-State Sports at some point soon. There's just something weird about this Knicks teams that I can't really find a way to really explain. You can't win consecutive games consistently. You can't stay consistent, period. So what do? Listen, I get it. It's early in the season. I thought they'd be a little better. Losing the teams, now, keep in mind, when the Pacers played the Knicks, this teleprompter was pre-made before some of the following games, so we'll keep those on standby until my episode. The Pacers are not a very good team. They can't play defense, and they only know how to score. But it helped them out for this game. Halliburton talking that garbage to the Knicks. Listen, I can't blame it. The Knicks are not a team that's really worth fearing right now until proven otherwise.
Great. Before we end this segment, I just want you to hold up. Before we end this segment, make sure you go check out Tri-State Sports on the Wayne Hills TV. But don't go anywhere because next up is Luke and Myles on the MLB.
Welcome to the highlight reel. Today we'll be talking about the NBA and our early season predictions. So to start off, my surprise team is the Detroit Pistons. Look, it can't...
Really?
Yeah, just like what you had last year.
Yeah, and they're the worst team in the NBA.
They were the worst team, but it can't get any worse than that, right? New coaching staff, Monty Williams, finally got fired. He was completely inept. I mean, he was about as bad as Adam Gase. I mean, he was terrible. And now they have J.B. Bickerstaff. He's going to hold it down. He's not incompetent, but he's not like a genius or anything. But the real reason I picked them is Cade Cunningham. He is going to have an all-star type season. He's just going to chuck up shots every night. Him and Jaden Ivey are just going to be shooting the heck out of the basketball. They're the only ones on the team that can score, and it's just going to be a really fun season. They're not going to get many wins, but it can only go better than what they were last year.
Well, you know who they had this offseason, which was pretty much our only addition to the worst team in the NBA last year?
Yeah,
Was
Tobias Harris.
Tobias Harris, the one who the Knicks basically kicked out of Philadelphia in the playoffs.
Yeah, but he can shoot, he can defend, and he's more importantly, he's not a teenager in the locker room, so he knows what he's doing. But they're going to be above average. I could see them vying for a play-in spot.
Okay, so you really just have them being better than last year, which is one of the worst teams ever, not really being a
Well, I mean, if they improve
true
by
playoff
if
team.
they improve by like 25 wins, then that's still a
Yeah.
big improvement.
Yes, I see Cunningham. He could be really good, but his injuries always.
Yeah,
catch
that's
up to
always
him.
his problem. So, Luke, who's your surprise team of the year?
I have actually the Hornets, another star point guard similar to Cade Cunningham who deals with injuries in LaMelo Ball. I mean, when he's healthy, he is one of the best point guards in the NBA. He makes passes, gets his guys open, hits shots, and yeah, I think they could be really good.
Yeah, they're going to be, honestly, they're going to be pretty good also. But with LaMelo, as you said, it's basically the same deal as Cade. They can't stay healthy. But LaMelo, I'd say, is a better all-around player than Cade. Obviously, he's one of the best playmakers in the league. And Brandon Miller, he is really, really good. He's given them like 20 a night, and he's like a 6'9" shooting guard, so he's really good.
Yeah, he's big and he can really shoot just as well as almost anyone.
And they got my guy Grant Williams, so
Yeah.
he's gonna, get some cardio out there.
Yeah, I think they could be really good this year and push for maybe a top six,
They could.
at least a play-in. So who's your MVP this season?
My MVP, to no surprise, is Jason Tatum. Coming off that NBA championship, he did it. He was the man. I know Jaylen Brown wasn't Finals MVP, but he is just a top 5 player. Don't let anyone say otherwise. He's incredible. The step-back threes he hit, his jumper's back. He fixed it in the offseason. His playmaking's taking another step up, and he's just a phenomenal, phenomenal player. I know he's corny, but he did it.
Okay. So top 5 player, which would mean he should have been starting in the Olympics if he's top 5?
He didn't even play.
Yeah, how many minutes did he get total? Like 5 minutes in the Olympics?
I'm sorry, where was Jalen Brunson on the Olympics?
He was hurt.
No, he wasn't.
Okay, he wasn't on the roster.
Yeah,
originally,
he
but
wasn't
then
on the
was hurt.
roster.
He
Yeah.
broke his hand.
Yeah. Okay.
Tatum played literally 5 minutes the entire Olympics and got benched. So
he
much for a
shouldn't
top
have.
5 player.
He clearly shouldn't have.
He's not top 5.
He's top 5.
So yeah, with that, my MVP is obviously Jalen Brunson. He gets to the lane so well. He could finish, gets fouls, he could hit shots all around. He makes good passes now. He shoots a good percentage from the field. I think if the Knicks really get back to the 2 seed or even the 1 this year, it's going to be because of Jalen Brunson and even Karl Anthony Towns. I think Brunson's going to have to lead the team, and he could win MVP.
Yeah, Cat's been good this year. He dropped 46 last night in that loss to the Bulls. That Brunson, your MVP, missed the game-winning shot. But I could see it happening. It's really not that hard to average 30 when you're shooting 25 shots a night. And he gets to the line really well. He's a good mid-range scorer. He's a throwback. But the thing I really like about him is that he takes charges. So you can clearly see that he cares on the defensive end, which is Thibodeau's whole thing. But I like the pick.
Yeah. So do you think the Cleveland Cavaliers are legit, like a legit threat to win the East, win the championship after a hot start at 13-0?
No, they're not. I mean, we see this every year, and their big flaw on the roster is that they have 2 big men that can't shoot, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I mean, they're good.
Mobley could shoot a little better than Allen.
Mobley's but you're leaving him open.
Yeah.
Right? You're not defending him. And then in the playoffs, the spacing just gets terrible. But what do you think?
I mean, it really depends on Mitchell and Garland. If those two could hit shots and score easily like we've been seeing them do, then they're going to be really hard to stop. And then they got the good defense inside with Allen and Mobley. And they grab a lot of rebounds. So it's going to be hard to stop them.
Yeah, they're good. I mean, Garland, he's really shown up this year. But that's all we have on the highlight reel this week, so we'll see you next week.